Welcome to the entire Tamkin community and everyone that is joining us from everywhere else on other platforms. We'd like to welcome you to another amazing session, which is going to be presented by Professor Eric Tsui, entitled Current Trends, Opportunities and Challenges in Educational Technology. Now, in this topic, we're going to look at the development in education technology and how this improves or what challenges the teachers face. So I'll I'll hand over the next steps to Professor X, who is going to guide us through this session. Be attentive and, like I usually say, take notes so that we might be able to ask questions during the question and answer section. Professor X, it's up to you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you, and I'll be pleased to deliver this seminar. I think it's a very exciting topic. I'd like to hear your views as well. So, as the title suggests, it's about current trends, opportunities, and challenges in educational technologies. It's a very important topic, as we all know. Learning is, it's among the most important activities that we all have to engage in right now. So, the content of the seminar I've set into these 6 topics, and I will not spend even time on each one of those. But anyway, just a quick run through. I'm going to talk about, the general evolution of educational technologies. And right now at 2025, what are the hottest topic, the fashionable technologies that people are talking about, people are using. All right. Now, the new technologies has also instilled the necessity to develop pedagogies. So I will revisit this topic about pedagogies, how to, advance our pedagogies to take advantage of the new technologies. UNESCO has released quite detailed guidelines about, how to raise the skills and competencies of teachers and students in this AI era for teaching and learning. So I will highlight some of the things that they're published as well. And I suppose, one of the highlights of tonight's seminar is to talk about if there is is there ever a universal or global versus a regional perspective, and how Africa in particular, Asia, is doing comparing with the Western world in terms of the advancement and adoption of educational technologies, as well as government investments. And I'll finish the seminar with, checkpoints about how everything is going, on a worldwide basis, and also into the future, what do we expect to see? Okay. All right. So firstly, on evolution of educational technologies, I think you would agree that in the past 15, 20 years, technology has come a long way. Mostly by linking people with information, linking learners with learning content, and these are typically web-based systems which provide, content and connects the learner with the content, deliver the content in real time or in asynchronous time. And some systems are also making use of data to, predict and analyze the behavior of learners as well. However, they are still very much teacher or activity-centric, and the analytics are not too sophisticated as well. The last 10, 15 years have been, big changes, especially in the last 5 years or so, with the upsurge of AI and also advancement in data and learning analytics. So that has, in fact, transformed learning management systems into more learning-centric because, as we all know, there's more data information in the internet, in the cloud. Knowledge really resides in the cloud. Knowledge includes information, data, reports, learning content, and even people and trusted networks. So, we have to reposition our learning sources to cover the external network, not just the classroom, not just the teacher. With that in mind, we are also, or at least in our university, we are also raising the competency of our students to be able to acquire knowledge from multiple sources and try to assess the authenticity and the quality of these sources as well. I mentioned about the proliferation of data, and that is right. Data is the new currency. Data is the new oil. With data, not only that we are seeing a lot more data in huge volume and speed of accumulating data, but there are also algorithms, among others, AI, of course, but many other algorithms as well, operating on this data. And that alone is already very exciting, because we are getting a lot more data, we're getting a lot more analysis that we never had before. That means we can monitor, a lot more things and be able to detect any anomalies or errors, and hopefully can rectify them as soon as possible. But the advancement doesn't stop there. You can see that more and more data are being integrated. In other words, these algorithms can access more data, right? Which, if we are doing this correctly, we can only assume that the algorithms are working more accurately, right? Because they're accessing more data, right? And of course, because of that, many things that previously were not able to automate before, we can start to automate them. And to human beings, assuming that we can tolerate the risk to a certain level, this is very exciting, because we do not need to spare our efforts on it, and things go automatically. More things go automatically, put it this way. And finally, to make this even more exciting, is we are seeing all this happening more and more in real time. There's no delay, real-time data, real-time analysis, and real-time operational decisions. So with that in the background, learning systems have advanced a long way. Not only we now have more personalized systems, highly personalized and customized systems, we are now having systems that are more learner-centric instead of teacher-centric. Learner theoretically can customize, and personalize a system for him or her in perpetuity. And furthermore, we are making use of virtual reality, extended reality, metaverse, and others to expand and extend the real world with complementary virtual information, to take learning to a new dimension, at least to take learning experience to a superior level, to a level that we have never seen before, to a level that we never had so much rich information, to a level that help us to assimilate, learn, and articulate the new concepts a lot more effectively, and in context than previously able to, to learn in an environment that physically just cannot possibly do, because it may be too expensive, it is impossible to do, it may take too long to do, or too risky to do. Well, this is a very important picture, because to me it keeps on reminding me about the evolution, the speed of evolution, the success, and also the challenges. Why? Because if you look at on the left-hand side, most teachers are still teaching in that way, classroom teaching, and the teacher dictates everything. The teacher designs the curriculum, pick the teaching method, right? Decide on the assessments, and then conduct the teaching typically in the classroom environment. However, if you look on the right-hand side, it's very cyber, right? That is exactly what we are transitioning, right? Very fast transitioning into, a cyber learning mode. Why? Because of AI, because of the Internet of Things, because of the advancement of digitalization. I just mentioned that, the personalized tutor is very real now. So look at this, more and more so, the learner is now deciding on many of the things that previously only the teacher does. Curriculum design, decision on the learning environment, learning method, how to assess on the learning outcomes, pay attention to ethical and privacy issues, acquiring literacy, competencies in AI, and more, right? So, while that is very exciting, there are lots and lots of challenges. A teacher is trained to be a professional in teaching and learning. So a teacher is supposedly, qualified to decide on many of the things that are pop up on the right-hand side, curriculum design, learning environment. But now, in the hands, in the minds, in the decision of the individual learners, they are not trained to do so. Are they making the right decision? I am not too sure. So, this translates to a significant challenge, right? And today, this is happening rapidly, but unfortunately, up to now, I've seen very little research in this particular area. most of my colleagues, I think most of the academics are focusing at the operational level, redesigning assessments, weaving AI into teaching and learning, right? But if you look at this line, look at it from a distance, we have a major saga looming, right? Because, the learning is transitioning rapidly from a teacher to individual learners. Yet individual learners may not have the skills, the competency, the knowledge, the experience to make a lot of decisions on things that are pop up on the right-hand side. I'll come back to this later on. Well, why is it important? Why is it a looming danger? Because this affects the learning. This affects metacognition. This affects the effectiveness of learning, right? Look at this. How can we expect the general learner to be able to, to decide on the learning method or pick the right learning method? How can we expect the average learner to be able to make judgment on their own learning outcome? How can we expect the individual learner to be able to assess his own self about the effectiveness of learning and playing the role of a teacher, right? A self-teacher, a self-learner. So these are, the difficult questions to answer. Very difficult indeed. Okay, so let's take a snapshot about what's happening right now, up to date at Q4 of 2025. What's the latest? All right, so, well, the latest is a sharp picture, as I have presented here, right? You can see that AI is definitely covering the sky. Everyone is talking about AI, talking about, permission, policies, guidelines, making use of it, the power of AI, taking away critical thinking, right? Plagiarism, turning in software and more, right? Redesigning assessments. Okay, so we'll come into that little more detail later, right? But on the other hand, extended reality, and that's virtual reality, augmented reality, metaverse, avatars, are also coming back in a big way, right? Especially with embedded AI capabilities in there. There are also other technologies that are coming into the learning landscape to a lesser extent, happening slower, but also of growing importance. That's AI for assessment, right? AI for administrative tasks or automating administrative tasks, AI for governance, right? And also use of blockchain to store learning material and to issue certifications. But amidst all this technology, as I mentioned earlier, the smart teacher would realize that he or she would also have to redesign pedagogy. Why? Because the pedagogies that we have been using up to now, were not developed based on the advanced nature of the technologies that we are experiencing, technology and data, right? So in order to take advantage of the new advancement in technology, AI and others, in order to take advantage of the proliferation of data, useful data that we can make good sense of, new pedagogies or revise the pedagogies have to be developed. Okay, so that's another area of core interest popping up here. And towards the end of the talk, I will also talk about the current trends and what are some of the new areas that has evolved over the last 2 years. So right now, staying back on Q4 of 2025, what are the implications with regard to what I just presented in the previous page? That is, we are seeing a lot more personalized learning. Learning buddy, theoretically, every learner, you and I, can develop personalized tutor, guiding us to learn about just about anything that we want to learn to varying degree of abstractions, continuously, intermittently, and over a range of sessions. We're seeing the permeation of the use of AI in the learning process, teaching, learning, revision, assessment, and more. Some teachers, like me, have been taking advantage of this progress, especially with the use of AI, and gamify the classroom. I'll give you an example of that later on. And as I mentioned earlier, happening at a slower pace because we need to be very careful. In academia, we always need to be very careful about assessments. So AI, I suppose, in a controlled fashion, it's also making headway into automating assessments. Okay, but we should never forget about fostering equitable and inclusive learning, taking into the multicultural and cultural aspects of our learners in the global world. Okay, universities are also establishing policy guidelines, governance to monitor and ensure purposeful usages and continuous improvement of AI and learning systems. Last but not least, there are also efforts on applying AI to enhance the quality and expedite the speed of research. For the rest of this seminar, I will concentrate on these highlighted topics, okay? And more, during my discussion for the rest of the seminar, I will try to weave in some of the work that I've been doing to give you examples. I will also mention other work as well, of course. But as I said just now, I will try to interleave with some of the work that me and my colleagues have been doing here at PolyU. All right, firstly, on virtual reality, on metaverse. Metaverse has been a big hit. Well, it had been a big hit several years ago, and then it's kind of, quiet down for about 2 years because of the AI taking over. But now it's coming back, coming back strongly, right? But make no mistake, some metaverse projects have closed, have shut down, because of the previous collapse. So it's not guaranteed yet, but it's coming back in a big way. Okay, you can see that there's some big names here who have previously shut down their metaverse project entirely and now has restarted. Meta, or Facebook, is a good example, right? They've just restarted their metaverse project in a big way. So metaverse belong to the family of extended reality. Typically, this kind of software provides a virtual plus physical environment that is, highly surreal and highly immersive, equipping the learner with enriched information, enriched knowledge, enriched environment to enable him or her to learn better, to motivate him or her to continue to learn and arouse curiosity, to appreciate the learning or to appraise the learning, to deepen the appreciation of the learning concepts in a way that neither physically only or virtually only environment can provide. In this category, typically we have virtual reality, we have augmented reality, we have avatars, and we have metaverse. And metaverse, generally speaking, will be the most sophisticated out of these four. Well, what's learning in the metaverse provide in terms of benefits? It enhances critical thinking, it enhances collaboration, it raises curiosity and motivation, it improves the social attitudes of the learners inside the metaverse, and it provides opportunities for greater and deeper engagement. Depending on how you develop your metaverse and introduce your or compose your group of learners, you can also use it to enact the learning of intercultural knowledge inside the metaverse or through the use of the metaverse. Well, metaverse has gained just strong theoretical support by many learning theories, as you can see here. I'm not going into the details, but these are the major learning theories that most educationalists subscribe to and rely on, when they're developing the course: constructivist, experiential learning, cognitive load theory, social learning, connectivism, gamification, and motivation theories, right? And metaverse has rightly justified that it has a role to substantiate and operationalize many of the key concepts behind each one of these theories. And deploying a metaverse for teaching and learning, many universities have found ways to enact in the following environments: immersive learning environments, professional and technical training, virtual laboratories, learning spaces, simulation and role playing, gamified learning, and more. I think you would agree that the sky's the limit. There's no limit for you, for me, for anyone. The design, the learning environment using a metaverse. Your imagination is the limit. That is great. This is one that I've designed and used for many times in my presentation, right? You can see that the design is simple. I choose to design a metaverse, which is basically a physical, or basically a one exhibition room, right? With many walls that I can mount content on it, right? So this is the principal wall, which contains my PowerPoint, right? So the learner can stand there and watch. They can press the button to advance the slide. They can download it. They can enlarge it. They can discuss anything in there, right? But interestingly, you can see that on other sides of the wall, other sides of the room, I've also mounted what I consider to be important slides taken from this master deck and remount and duplicate them into those walls, right? The idea is, I want to provide a hub, for my learners to come. Students don't come here to download material. Students come here to discuss, stand around some of the important slides, discuss about the points, and if they have anything that they want to ask or like to discuss, they can leave a sticky note, a virtual sticky note, right, on the board, and I will periodically visit this hall and come back and answer their questions, right? So it's worked very well. My students find it very informative, very useful, very surreal, right? And they like the 3D environment as well. So this is a lot better than just giving my student a link to the learning management systems after the class and they just download the material and never come back there. Well, this is, it's one feedback from my students after, using the metaverse for the first time.
The metaverse has brought me a higher participation level because there are more clear voice and the information shown on the screen, which helped me to know about what the teacher was saying. And what's more, the question made me more focused on the content
which the teachers were teaching.
Right. So I think you will consider that to be a positive, feedback that the student, at least up to now, has been receptive about the use of metaverse. Not only receptive, I would say they're curious and welcome for more. AI tools have also been used to support research. And I've been doing some work in this area for the past 3 years. I've been running workshops on how to use AI tools to expedite the speed of research and also the quality of the research, right? And in particular, you can see that, the principal contributions of AI tools are in the area of summarizing, analyzing, answering questions about papers that you upload to it, or you give them a URL to analyze, compiling literature review, helping you to identify the research gaps, helping you to develop, shape, and refine the research question to make it more unique, to make it more, significant in terms of the impact of the findings, okay? And also to ensure that its uniqueness by trawling through the literature databases to ensure that at the moment it is, underexplored. AI tools also help to perform data analysis, helping you to discover insights, helping you to summarize the descriptive data, identify if there's any trends or association across data sets, and also supporting conversational dialogue over the a collection of data. Last but not least, AI tools also help to develop the manuscript and improve the use of English in your writing according to different style that is required for different types of journals, and also disciplines. So in a workshop that I deliver, which I'll repeat it in the TAMCA International Talk in forthcoming months, I specifically outline 5 categories of AI tools that can help with the research process. First one is on the left there, you can see that document summarization, and that includes not only just summarizing the document, a set of documents, but also being able to answer questions that are, within the content of those documents. Second category is helping the researcher to refine the search, extend the search, to categorize papers, cluster the papers together into a group, to recommend additional papers that the tool has found, but the user may not be aware of, and also present the result in a visually expressive protocol so that the learner or the researcher can quickly zoom in into the details, the interesting aspects, important parts of the search result in order to perform further analysis or to make a decision. The third category of AI tools is to help the researcher to explore and develop the research question, right? As I mentioned earlier, based on the scarcity of the research being performed, based on the feasibility of collecting data, and also based on the researcher's interest. The fourth category, it's helping the researcher to analyze the data collected, right? Descriptive information, displaying them in different formats, articulating if there's any relationship, association among different data sets, and also, keeping track of the new publications in the area, and then relate them with in-depth information about how the newly developed or how newly published data is related to the researcher's data set. And number 5 is a big category, and that is AI tools helping the researcher to publish, to present his work in journal, in conferences, in social media, and on websites. I'm very impressed with this tool provided by Harvard University's Division of Continuing Education, using AI tools to replicate interactions by learners that are captured in a synchronous environment into an asynchronous environment. Now, the background is, obviously with this particular course, the Harvard School is running a hybrid mode. In other words, learners can take live lessons, in real time, or they can, self-pace through the courses by themselves and not in real time. Okay, so you can imagine, if you are doing that on your own at your own pace, you may miss the opportunity to interact with other colleagues, with the teacher, right, in real time, because when you are studying, when you're accessing the content, you cannot assume that at the same time other people are accessing at the same time, right? So therefore, they have this AI tool that actually learns during real time what were the interactions, what are things discussed, right? What are the different types of comments and perspectives that the learner and the teacher have voiced out, and then reproduce it, replicate it in appropriate context when a learner start to use or start to go through the content and participate in the discussion in an asynchronous mode, right? So in other words, the learner in the asynchronous mode is dealing with an AI agent, which he or she may or may not be aware of, and the AI agent is regenerating discussions to interact with him, to deepen his learning, almost the same, I would say, as with someone who is learning it in a real-time environment. So I thought that's a great contribution. Excellent. Another area of AI contributions in a big way is, the possibility of providing personalized tutor. applying Gen AI to personal learning. And the contributions are not restricted in the following, but just to name a few. For example, recommendation of learning objectives, learning content, learning paths, adaptation to various learning environments and learning methods, generating learning content, authoring them, providing guidance, explanation, and feedback in real time to the learner whenever the learner is, is using the system, conducting assessment for the learner for each session and for all the sessions in totality. It also supports self-paced learning, user chunking of learning content. So, it can chunk down, a large topic into micro topics and then allow the learner to pace through them progressively. And of course, AI system can also track and report progress of the learner to the learner himself or herself, as well as to the teacher. At PolyU, we have developed the Socratic Playground for Learning. I love the opportunity to show it to you, but that's not because of time limit possible in today's seminar. Well, what's Socratic learning? Well, Socratic learning is one of the very old method of learning, a very effective one, invented by the Greek philosopher Socrates, right? So Socratic learning, it's about using questions, cascading set of questions via a sequence of conversational dialogue to guide the learner to self-deduce the answer. Right? So in other words, it never gives you the direct answer. Imagine the tutor or the teacher, physical or virtual, using Socratic method of learning. He or she will never give you the direct answer. It will guide you through a series of questions, reflection, so that you, the learner, progressively come to deduce the appropriate answer for the very question that you are seeking. This is the Socratic method, right? So reflect deeply on concepts, enable you to challenge assumptions, explore multiple perspectives, construct knowledge through dialogue, right? It's a very effective way of learning. And indeed, if you're looking at today's generative AI tools, the latest generation is that OpenAI and Anthropic have both developed educational version of ChatGPT. An educational version of ChatGPT does not give you direct answers. It employs the Socratic method with cascading set of questions, bounce back to the learner, and guide the learner to deduce the concept, the answers himself or herself. That's Socratic method of learning in action. Well, I'm not going to read all of this, but this is exactly the key functions of the Socratic Playground for Learners that PolyU has developed. As I said, given another opportunity, I'm happy to conduct a session to show you about the power of that system. And you can also create accounts. It's in the public domain. You can also create accounts to develop a personalized tutor for yourself. Pedagogies, right? Pedagogies has been around for a long time. And in fact, many people have a misinterpretation about this word pedagogies. Pedagogies is a lot more than instructional design, a lot more, right? So what exactly is pedagogies? Look at all these, the terms in the mind map that is related to pedagogy. Pedagogy is once you've decided to launch a course, you start designing it, you determine the objective of the course, and then pedagogy kicks in. Why? Because pedagogy will help you to think through and make decisions on the learning method, the learning environment, the learning tools and technologies, the assessments, and how to measure the learning outcome of your learners. That's all in all part of pedagogy, pedagogical design. Okay, so you can see that it's a widely encompassing term. It's a lot more than just instructional design. So because of the advancement of technology and also the proliferation of data, teachers are basically, forced, if not reminded, forced to rethink about pedagogies, because it would be shortchanging ourselves if we continue to use the old pedagogy. Why? Because they are no longer supporting the massive amount of data that we receive. They are not taking advantage of the use of technology or the permeation of technologies that we have included in our course, right? So in order to rectify these situations, pedagogies have to be redeveloped or extended, right? So in that context, there is pedagogies for AI-driven personalized learning, pedagogies to support competency-based education, pedagogies to support hybrid and extended reality learning, pedagogies to support flipped classroom, and many others, right? So the whole area of pedagogies need to be revamped. If you are delivering a course last year and now you're using more and more AI, and you and your students are taking advantage of data, you have to redevelop the pedagogy on how to deliver the course from now on. Well, again, UNESCO and a number of other public institutions are, ahead in this area. They have published very useful reports to guide us. And UNESCO advocates a human-centered pedagogical approach, interactive approach, and definitely not driven by technology, supported by technology, but it remains a human-centered pedagogical approach, right? And they also advocate the co-designing of pedagogies with teachers, students, with the use of AI. Two distinctive pedagogical framework that I like to mention. They're quite straightforward, but they are highly contributory. King's College in the UK, on the left-hand side there, they advocate that there are 4 steps in guiding you to develop the new pedagogy, right? State the problem you try solving, identify the AI tools, and identify how you're going to use the AI tools to support the learning. Number 3, interaction, how learner we're going to use these AI tools in order to acquire the learning, they learn the concepts. And number 4, help your learners to reflect on the effectiveness of using that AI tool and also the process of using it. So you can try to design your pedagogy around these 4 areas, right? With the increasing adoption of AI. On the right-hand side, UBC, University of British Columbia in Canada, of course, has a also very extensive framework, and they advocate that we can develop pedagogies for different roles, different stakeholders involved in the use of AI for teaching, learning, assessments. What are these roles? Role could be a mentor, could be a tutor, could be a coach, could be a teammate, could be a student, could be a simulator, could be the tool itself, right? So it really has multiplied the development of pedagogies into multiple dimensions, right? And it also offers you guidelines about how to think through and start designing the pedagogies to make effective use of the AI tool and also data with the view to ensure the best learning outcome for the learners. So you notice that at the moment, there's no universal blueprint on developing new pedagogies or revising pedagogies. But I would say that on the whole, it's still at the drawing board stage. Many universities, many teachers are rethinking hard about how to redesign the pedagogies, but we are all learning. So nothing has been concrete. And I suppose every pedagogy is unique because of the local culture, the course content, the teacher, the discipline, the environment, and more. Well, for me, I also had an opportunity to, through the use of AI and get a chance to redesign one of my teaching pedagogies, right? And it starts from using ChatGPT as a as a tool for competition, right? So I split my class session into two parts. The first part was a competition between me and ChatGPT. Looking back, it's really silly me put myself in the ring. And it goes like, my student pick a set of questions. For each question, I respond to it verbally, followed by ChatGPT's response. And without my knowledge, my student complete a survey after each question. And the survey asks the student, the professor's answer is better, ChatGPT's answer is better, the combined answers is better, or the two answers cannot be compared. And only after all the questions are exhausted, wow, boy, I'm being told the outcome, whether I'm being knocked out or I won or is a draw. The second part of the session is a discussion that my students go back and revisit the response by me and by ChatGPT, and they discuss about the prompt. They discuss about the composition of the problem. They discuss about potential privacy and confidentiality and ethical issues based on the ChatGPT response and more. So this is, to me, it's a review, discuss, and reflect pedagogy, through the use of competition. My students love it. I like it as well. I'm going to do more with this in future semesters. On the left, you see with my Hong Kong students. On the right, you may be surprised, me with my South African students in Cape Town. Right, another area which, I'm lucky enough to have an opportunity to redesign pedagogy, and this time is through, the concept of conducting COIL activities. What is a COIL? COIL, C-O-I-L, is collaborative online international learning. And I think this picture, tells you quite vividly exactly what is a COIL. In the middle, there's the classroom, sectional view of the classroom, where me and my students are there, and they are actually, conversing, sharing, learning together with students via Zoom session or other virtual means with students from a foreign university, student and teacher from a foreign university. So on both sides of the screen, you can see that for students in the other university, they could be attending with the teacher in a classroom at the local university, or they could be dispersed anywhere, working from home or whatever, right? But the important thing is we're collaborating together via technologies. For you students and students from foreign universities, one or more. So a particular very interesting aspect and very contributory aspect of conducting COIL is to deepen learners' appreciation of transcultural knowledge or intercultural knowledge. Because as you can see, depending on how I broker or who I broker with, I could have brokered with a European university. I could have broken with a collaboration with an American university. I have brokered several sessions with African universities as well, right? So through these sessions, not only we can discuss about focus, perspectives from different cultural aspects, but we can also appreciate each other's intercultural knowledge and norms. So when I was delivering a topic, value creation in the digital world, I have the other teacher delivering his part of the lecture as well. So my students and his students both benefit by learning different perspectives from the two different teachers of different cultures. My forte is on knowledge management, right? When I talked about deploying knowledge management in the Western world and in the Eastern world, I talked about, the deployment of knowledge management with the Asian approach in particular. And my counterpart, a professor in an Italian university, she delivers a similar lecture, but emphasize it from the Western perspective. Right? And we both share our lecture with students from the other universities as well. So students get to appreciate the perspectives of both the Eastern and Western approach to knowledge management. And I received very good feedback on it. I'm not going to read it, but you can see from this cartoon or comic that these are words actually came out from the student feedback. So I just, put it into a comic environment to show you. They appreciate very much about the different cultures, meeting students and learning about the perspectives that is being, exhibited by different culture.
Exactly like what Jacqueline said, there was a lot of moments where it was like a culture shock for us, because having like predominantly Asian learning and teaching experience, like in Asian cultures usually we are more like we listen to talk, and then it's kind of like it's not really an interaction, it's more of just them imparting knowledge to us and us just retaining. But for example, in Arizona State University, in University of New Orleans, it felt more like a discussion in class. So that's something that really stuck with me, because it was as if every single thing that the professors taught, they would require like an answer or response from the students. They would want them to have input. Whereas in like Asian cultures, it's just the teacher talking about the lecture slides and getting the input from students. And also in predominantly in like PolyU, for example, during the lectures, usually when the teachers ask at the end of the lecture, do you guys have any questions? Nobody would reply. But then surprisingly, in like Western cultures, I feel like the Q&A session is even longer than the lecture itself.
That's right. So I think you would appreciate that these words coming out from a student is not easy to get, right? As a professor, as a teacher, I always encourage them to ask, to raise questions, to discuss. But, nothing is better than for them to experience it themselves. There you go. After experiencing the global classroom, the COIL, this lovely feedback from the students really has moved me. And I think there's much more value that the COIL can offer. And therefore, me and my students have all voted with our feet to do more in the coming semesters. Right. Well, again, I sound very positive and upbeat, and so I should be, right? However, there are still obstacles because, as you definitely, foreshadow, and you would agree that, that in fact, we are lacking behind in terms of the skills and competencies. Technology is running away from us far too quickly, right? No matter how good you are in tech savviness, right? You can never match the speed of advancements of the technologies, especially AI technology these days. Almost like every few weeks, there's a new version being released. Oh my God, we cannot catch up with that. And that is right. Oh my God is right. So again, the World Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum, and also UNESCO have been working hard to help us, to help the academic community by releasing the frameworks and guidelines to elevate the skills, competencies with AI literacy for students and teachers. And I think more for teachers than students, really, right? So I'm not going to go into the details here because it's quite heavy going, but I can let you know that you can download a lot of this material from the UNESCO website, all free of charge. And they have different languages as well. I'm pretty sure they've got some for some African languages as well. So, but English and French and many other major languages are represented. Okay, so you can see here that they separate into different aspects for AI competencies: human-centered mindset, ethics of AI, AI foundation and applications, AI pedagogy, AI for professional development, human-centered mindset, and also ethics of AI, right? And they also develop different level of competencies of mastering, and that's basically modeled after the Bloom's taxonomy on the right-hand side, where you can see that typically with trying to define the level of understanding of something by a human being, If we are really, really good at it, we should be able to teach it. We're supposed to be able to create new knowledge in it, right? If we are superficial about something, in the worst case, we may even be ignorant, but hopefully not. So you can see at the bottom there, we may be just hard remembering something, right? But as we get better, we may start to understand, and we may be able to apply, we may analyze, we may be able to evaluate, we are able to teach other people, we are able to demonstrate, and we may be able to create new knowledge in that area. Okay, second last topic. And, with all these advancements, and hard work by academics and also UNESCO and World Economic Forum, can we ask, based on the data that I have seen, and the reports that I've read, is there a universal, can we summarize with a universal perspective, and also are there any distinctive characteristics based on different regions? Well, interesting information reviews here. Firstly, in terms of adoption of educational technologies worldwide, okay, in terms of adoption and integration of technologies, Western institutions tend to be quite advanced because most of the Western countries are developed countries, right? So they have good collaboration tools, they have good infrastructure. But Asian, there's a lot more startups happening, so is African as well, right? But Asian and African countries, the deployment may not be even because, as you definitely appreciate, I think in Africa is even more so than Asia. The infrastructure is quite non-uniform in terms of deployment. Some areas that is really poor coverage, and some areas have much better coverage. So that may hamper, a uniform rollout because citizens in some deprived area may have basic connection problems. Okay. Government initiatives, again, Western countries, they have regular recurring funds to supporting them, although, sometimes it could be up and down, but still, overall speaking, it's quite, a good investment for them to continue to maintain and grow. But in Asian countries, depending on the government blueprint and set policies, if it is in a targeted area of growth, then it's good investment, especially to beef up the infrastructure and catch up. If not, maybe you still have to wait. In African countries, you can see you have to validate for me because this is based on just paper-based research. Several African countries are being singled out here. That's Kenya, Rwanda, and several others in the next page that have shown that they have, a blueprint, national blueprint, and will significant investment in in the operation of certain projects. Pedagogical approaches, again, this goes back to a lot to the culture, right? So Western cultures is more open and it tends to be more decentralized. So in other words, they welcome innovation, they welcome lateral thinking, and they tend to have a free hand and allow university departments, individuals to apply different kinds of pedagogies. In Asia, it's kind of, not so free hand, put it this way, right? Universities generally have some guidelines, if not constraints, on how you could design your pedagogies. For example, in our university, by default, all lectures have to be face-to-face unless you have a strong justification why it's not face-to-face, right? So that is already some kind of a qualified constraint on the delivery, right? And in Africa, what have I got down there? Africa seems to be better than Asia, right? Just by the read of it, a gradual shift to technically advanced pedagogy. Okay, well, I think you can enlighten me better. Challenges and barriers. Well, all regions have digital divide in cultural adaptation, but again, the Western nations, they are ahead. They are working on inclusiveness, diversity. They are aware of the issues and getting a head start on this. Whereas Asia is slower off the mark. We're still struggling with infrastructure and struggling with a more uniform pedagogical design and rollout. For Africa, there are a number of points there. Infrastructural gaps, limited digital literacy, funding constraints, fragmented markets, and also a gender gap in EdTech leadership. Well, again, I'm waiting for you to enlighten me on these things. Well, in terms of the adoptions and startups, okay, and this is a good picture because it does show that Asian and Africans, there's a lot more startups than the Western world on educational technologies. In Asia, in Hong Kong, I can experience it. I don't know what's happening in Africa, but the statistics seem to be very strong. So perhaps someone can give a reason later on. Okay. On the right-hand side, you can see that the trends by the region in terms of adoption, governance, pedagogy, and challenges. Again, Africa came out very strongly indeed. In most cases, almost seem to be the highest. Okay, so very good news. If these statistics is indeed the truth. Well, I think a little bit deeper, he came out with this page. Perhaps you can run your eyes over it, and we can, discuss a bit more in the discussions. I have to learn from you because, I'm Asian and I'm living in Asian territory. So you would have a lot more contextual knowledge and cultural knowledge to enlighten me in this particular context. Well, is there a universal versus regional specific element of the digital education? Well, what's universal? Yes, at the universal level, there's core technologies. All regions are using learning management systems and slowly migrating to learning experience management systems. AI-driven tutoring, digital assessments are starting to be adopted. Pedagogical shift, yes. Generally speaking, yes. But later on, I'll reiterate, there is a stark contrast between the pedagogical shift between Asia and Western. Okay, and digital literacy, again, both teachers and students need to elevate their digital literacy, and universities worldwide are addressing this problem. And definitely here at PolyU, we are right in the thick of designing courses for teachers and students to enhance their AI literacy. So what about at the regional specific areas levels? Okay, so for infrastructure, at the infrastructure aspect, there's disparities, right? As I explained earlier, in the Western world, most Western countries are developed, so their infrastructure tend to be quite uniform, right? But for Asian and African countries, there's still a lot of rural areas where infrastructure rollout is not even, and unfortunately, until that problem is being addressed, populations or citizens in those areas may have, inadequate access to internet. Cultural attitudes in Asia, high parental involvement. That is true here in Hong Kong, for example. The parents study for the kids, or parents study with the kids, or sometimes parents study for the kids, right? You know what I mean, right? And exam-centric system here. I don't know about Africa, but in Asia, exam marks is everything, right? So exam marks, the name of university, the rank of university, dictate your future career prospect, and dictate in some ways your future career, right? So that unfortunately have too strong a influence on the development of learning systems, right? So learning systems are very, very focused on marking, assessments, and grading, right? And I suppose, there should be more efforts on teaching and learning rather than just assessments. Policy frameworks also reveal the disparity. China's Smart Education Initiative, it's smart education, that's all right. The smart education issued by the ministry, right? Issued by the ministry, very high level, and then roll out for all universities and faculties to follow. Okay, Whereas EU's digital education, they advocate the development of initiatives and the rollout at the faculty level. So they're giving more of a free hand for universities to decide what's best for them. Just by the sound of it, the European one tends to be more open and more, diversified, where the Chinese one tends to be more controlled and top down. Equity of access, digital divides persist because of the disparity in income and also infrastructure rollout, barriers to the internet and so forth. The future of work, skills mismatch, that's still the case for many countries. In fact, in the world, even in the Western world, we're not producing graduates that are good enough to align with what the industry requires. We're changing rapidly, but not fast enough, right? Credentialing shift. Increasingly, not a PolyU, but some other universities are starting to adopt micro-credentials, right? So instead of just a degree, and also some universities are so open, you can have stackable credentials. In other words, you can gain micro-credentials incrementally, and then at some stage, when you reach an intermediate stage, you can exchange that for a degree or some kind of a more traditional kind of credential. Okay, that's much the same. So finally, as a checkpoint and a glimpse into the future. Well, if you've been following, many of the things that I've talked about permeation of AI used for assessments, use of AI to support teaching, learning, and assessments, and more, right? Pedagogical design with regard to the use of AI and data. It's not new. In fact, it's good news. Why? Because back in 2019, I suppose just before COVID hits, there was a big meeting, in Beijing, and educationalists came together for a few days workshop, and they already anticipate, the onset of the AI era. So they developed the Beijing Consensus, right, or what's called now the Beijing Consensus, which they have outlined, in the coming years. Universities and academics need to plan AI educational policies, AI to empower teaching and teachers, AI for learning and learning assessments, development of various skills. So when you read down the list, that is precisely what I've been reporting in this seminar. So it's good news if we are comparing with this particular blueprint. So we are spot on course with the Beijing Consensus 2019. So it's good to read that. Well, what's new in the last 2 years? And in particular, you can see that on the bottom right there, highlighted with the red rectangle. It's, in 2025, we're seeing more AI tools for teaching and learning. That's nothing new, right? But we're also seeing faculty development for generative AI, as I mentioned earlier. AI being used for governance, or governance framework for AI is being developed. And universities are paying more attention to cybersecurity issue, privacy of data involved in AI, as well as the ethical issues. And AI is going to be permanent as a kind of an evolving teaching practice. And also critical digital literacy skills are being enhanced as well. Well, I look forward to see what will be the update in 2026, which will be just around the corner. So, but for now, I would say that, we can surely expect in next year, there will be AI augmented LMS, learning management systems, virtual learning environments, personalized AI tutors, right? And AI for administrative automation and AI for assessments. And these are, on the horizon, should I say. But once again, let's not forget, we have a looming big challenge around us, and that is how are we going to deal with this transition for teacher-led classroom training to a cyber distributed, learners-centric, self-nomination of learning methods, learning skills, learning techniques, and so forth. They are, in my view, poorly prepared for it. So How are we going to do it? How are we going to stop it? How are we going to enhance the skill for the learners to be able to do this properly? I don't know. It's the danger is most academics at the moment is not seeing this as a big worry. Is not spending time on this. There's very little research on it, but I think the problem will come up very, very soon. I'd like to finish this seminar with something that Jack Ma, the director of Alibaba, has reminded us. Okay, let me see.
Among all the challenges, I think the most challenging thing is about education. Even if today the best university of the world will face the same challenges, because everything we teach our kids are the things that in the past 200 years, the things we taught them, the machine will do better. So we have to think about what is the best way to teach our kids in the future. We have to teach the kids that win the machine will never be able to win the man. This is my belief, because machine only have the chips, human have the heart. So I think we have to change from now on the education system. In the future, it's not about the competition of knowledge. It's a competition of creativity. It's a competition of imagination. It's a competition of learning. It's a competition of independent thinking.
There you go, competition of independent thinking, competition of creativity. Well, these are some of the reports that I have based my research on. If you want a copy of this PowerPoint, I'm more than happy to provide that to you. And yes, so I've reached the end of my slide. I'll pass back to the MC to take any questions or start with our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Eric Tsui. There are some questions though in the messages. I think we can go towards those as well.
Okay, so can you read out to me, please?
All right, I'll do just that. Question number 1 states the following: What are the risks associated with over-reliance on AI in education?
Well, the biggest risk is our students start to let go their own critical thinking, and we are all working hard in order to avoid this situation. And there's no best universal formula, but what me and my colleagues are doing for the last few months have been trying to redesign assessments so that this AI cannot provide an answer, but at the same time also encourage and permeate the use of AI in the classroom. So I'll give you an example. If we have talked about a certain concept or principle in the classroom, and we talked about case studies as well. Now, as an assignment, I can ask my students to summarize what we have discussed in class, and also draw on some examples in the local situation recently, and then compile that as an essay. Now, that is nothing that AI can do, right? Why? Because even if you mention the principle, AI can only tell my student as an answer about what is learned from the data, which would be years ago, right? And with regard to, for example, the local context, what happened in Hong Kong 2 weeks ago, was it related to this particular principle? No AI tools can answer that, right? Because it cannot think, it doesn't have any local information, and even if you get the data from the internet, it is not learned data, right? So therefore, by carefully redesigning the assessment, we can meticulously avoid students just throwing the question into AI and copying the answer into the assignment.
Thank you very much. I think we go to question 2, is it?
Yes, please.
Question 2 reads: How can institutions overcome resistance to technological change among educators?
Well, that depends on how big is the resistance, right? So we have resistance as well. If the resistance is from the teachers, then I suppose not everyone is resistant. So maybe there are some teachers who are willing to be advocates, who are willing to be early adopters. So I suggest you start with them, because hopefully with some initial results, you can impress the others positively, right? So if the resistance is on technology, then perhaps you can provide some training to teachers. And also, you do not want to overdo it. Maybe you start with incremental approach. You only implement something really simple to start with. You spread it out with stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. You don't overwhelm people with just giving them a very complex tool. It can be very powerful, but it's no use if it scares people and people doesn't know how to get the most out of it.
And then question 3 says the following: how is AI transforming teaching and learning practices today?
Well, I don't think I can answer that question. I can answer half of it, and that is, in order to seek an answer to that, we have to rethink the whole thing. What are we doing as a teacher? Are we there to teach in the classroom? Are we using PowerPoint to teach the points in the classroom? Or should we be learning together with our students to discover the good things on the internet, the good things in the digital world, and then learn together? And should we be, like what I've done earlier, orchestrating, designing classrooms that integrate my students with students from foreign universities, right? So that we can learn better, appreciate different cultural aspects. So again, our imagination is the sky. The sky's the limit there, right? So we will have to step back, and I would say that to forget or unlearn some of the things that we are too accustomed to, because that was designed hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, right? So now it's a different world. With the advancement of technology, we are able to link together people from any corners of the world in real time. Now with data, we can analyze a lot more information that makes sense out of a lot more situations well before they happen. Even with predictive capability, we can initially early predict the capability of a student. We can develop learning paths, different learning paths for each one of our students. So we have to go back to first principle. What's the role of a teacher? What's the role of education? What's the role of learning? And then see how AI, technology, pedagogy can fit in.
Thank you very much. And the last question says the following: what are the main challenges schools face when adopting new educational technologies?
Oh, I don't think I can answer that question. Firstly, I've never worked in school. I'm in university. So I don't have anything to chip in there, because and I also this research that I've compiled is primarily based on tertiary education. So I don't want to be wrong, so because it's quite likely anything that I respond to this question is wrong, because firstly, I never taught in school, never taught in secondary level before, and second, I think the educational system, secondary education system here in Hong Kong, in Asia, is quite different from in your environment. So I don't want to respond to that. You would have to conduct a separate piece of research in order to identify that. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. And I've got a question from the mic, and the question is as following: I did hear you say a bit that sometimes the school can determine whether a person will advance or not due to the name of the school, the place, and all those aspects. How can we avoid such? Like, how would you advise a person who is in that situation where their school or the area where they come from sort of pushes or prevents opportunities?
So your question is, you said you heard me talking about students from certain schools may be deprived, and you're asking about how can we help those students in that case. Is that right?
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm not saying that students from certain school could be deprived. I'm saying that in two ways. Firstly, students from some area of low conductivity may be deprived because they have difficulty in accessing the internet, so let alone asking them to play videos. And secondly, with the use of learning analytics, especially with the rich amount of data collected today across various systems, we have a lot more information to analyze, and we have a better chance of early identifying those students who may need help in order to get through a course, right? So I can answer the second part then, right? And typically, we can swing into a mode where we can identify additional learning content, or we can, if you like, demystify or make it less abstract, right? For the learning content, and take it down to a lower level or chunk it down so that the learner can cope with it better before he or she can catch up with the rest of the group.
Thank you very much. I do believe you've answered both parts of the question. All right.
Okay.
I think we've reached the end of today's session, and I would love to thank everyone that came and joined us, and hopefully you've picked up something. But most of all, I would love to thank Professor Eric Tsui for giving us his time and sharing freely his knowledge on how to yes, improve education system with the new technologies that we have. Thank you very much once more, Professor Eric Tsui. You've done us a good service. Hopefully this knowledge will be used. I think that is the most important thing for both. Yes. And finally, I'll leave the final words to you if you have something to say.
No, thank you for your time, and I look forward to giving another seminar next week. I think it's next Wednesday, if I'm right.
Yes, exactly. So for those that are still here, we would invite you to come and join us once more for Professor Eric Tsui's next seminar, and come in numbers and invite others as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.